Police officers of Reddit. What stupid law have you enforced just because someone was an asshole? Excessive noise from a vehicle. I never give that ticket because it's kind of a waste of time compared to what I could be doing, but also most people have the common sense not to be blasting their shit at 150 decibels around the fuzz. I just finished a call at Walmart. It's Walmart, so the parking lot is packed. People, kids, families everywhere. This truck starts rolling through super slow. Dude had the fucking Power Stone hooked up to his sound system. Pure dick move. Pulled him over, just have the conversation about respecting others. Guy was a dick. Like a huge, floppy, angry green dick. He got $1,100 worth of tickets where he could have gotten a warning if not for the attitude. Once saw a fellow officer write a ticket for bald tires, among several other things, because the driver decided to use his First Amendment right to call the officer a slang racial slur. Cop here. I call it the asshole test. I treat everyone the way I would like to be treated, with respect and courtesy. There was one time I stopped someone for completely disregarding a stop sign in a high pedestrian area. When I walked up to the person's car, he was immediately angry and frustrated with me. Called me a few choice words and his conduct was overall negative. I tend to give people warnings unless the offense was very reckless. This guy definitely got a ticket. Canadian cop here. I currently police a very rural, very poor First Nation reserve. A lot of the frequent flyers in my community are regularly placed on conditions to not drink alcohol. Problem is, alcoholism goes hand in hand with poverty, so it's pretty rare to find any of those people sober. Technically I can arrest/charge any of these people anytime I encounter them and they've been drinking. So basically whenever I want. If I encounter one of these people and they're being even a little bit friendly/cooperative, they get a pass/ride home. If they cross my path and decide to be an asshole, they get to spend a night in cells. If they've done it a few times recently, they'll also pick up a criminal charge. It's not that I enjoy lodging or charging people, but them acting like an asshole with me is a pretty good indicator that they're going to go beat up people, break some stuff, steal some stuff, etc. later that day. I prefer to nip that kind of stuff in the bud when I can. Former police officer here. There was a law where I worked that banned spitting in public. I only wrote 2 or 3 people for it, and it was because the people were huge assholes. Even the prosecutors were like, really? Expectorating in public? How petty are you? I usually don't add extra tickets when someone is an asshole, but depending on things start will help me make my mind on real or warning tickets. Best case I can think of is how a guy turned a DUI into a $50K bond. He decided to tear my interior door handles off while sitting in my back seat and trying to reassemble the lock so it will work and open the door. Except I was staring at him, telling him to stop, while he said he wasn't doing it. He tried it with both of them. So it's 2 felony counts of damaging government property. Then I couldn't find a spring from the door handle, so tampering with evidence, which is another felony. Then the car he drove there in was a car he was supposed to be fixing at his job, and he wasn't authorized to drive it, especially since it was taken to his shop for an oil change. He worked in a dealership and repaired cars. So he had a felony vehicle theft charge for trying to drive a customer's $100K car to his ex-girlfriend's house. My call was from his ex-girlfriend, and 2 neighbors called, because he was screaming outside her door. He got public drunk and disorderly conduct for that. He was trying to hide when I got there, but he was on the 2nd floor of the apartment, so he got another charge of obstruction. He also got the DUI charge, so his license was pretty much gone because it was his 3rd or 4th DUI. Only charge that got dropped was tampering with evidence because it was too petty. I figured most of it would be dismissed, but his lawyer was horrible. He stayed in jail for like a month because his wealthy parents were tired of his shit, and he drove that $100K car through their closed garage before he drove it to his ex-girlfriend's house. I've got a few. We have a small children's garden/park in our city. I was walking through one day and saw a guy picking cherry tomatoes off the plant and eating them. They're for looks and not eating, and there's a sign at the entrance that says that. I politely told him to stop eating the tomatoes and pointed out the sign to him, explaining that the fruiting plants were there for the kids to see and that any food that comes from them will he picked and given to a homeless shelter. He didn't agree and picked another tomato and ate it right in front of me. I remembered that our city has an ordinance called intentional damage to city-owned shrubs and trees which carries around a $450 fine. He got a ticket for it that day. It's the only time anyone can ever remember that statute being used. Another time I pulled a car over because he had a cover over his license plate that used to be clear. Clear covers are legal, but had been damaged by the sun and weather to the point that you could barely read the plate under it. That's not legal. I stopped him with the intent of just letting him know of the problem and writing him a warning. When I told him why I stopped him, he picked up a book from his passenger seat with our state code of laws in it and asked me to show him where in the book it said he couldn't have a faded cover. He was a real ass about it too. I told him I wasn't going to go through his book looking for the statute but that I would go back to my car and write down the statute number for him and that he could look it up for himself. Well, guess what? Our warning tickets don't have a space for the statute number, but our real tickets do. So he got a ticket with the statute number on it. He paid his $100 fine without coming to court. Cop here. Was at the end of my night shift, about to head home when I heard a crash near the detachment. Went to investigate and saw a couple of guys walking away from a local homeless feeding shelter, and a shopping cart that was thrown at the building nearly breaking the window. Went to go have what was supposed to be a 5-minute chat about not breaking stuff on your way home from the bar, but one of the guys kept walking away from me. Just said nope and I don't have to stop for you after I formally detained him. Wouldn't give a name or anything. Eventually told him it's an obstruction charge, which I rarely do because people are kinda jerks a lot of the time, but he kept not saying. Ended up being arrested for mischief, held overnight in the drunk tank and a $250 ticket for obstructing a peace officer. Because he didn't want to have a 5-minute talk about not being a jerk when drunk. I work in a town of 4,000 roughly. We have 2 main streets that run the entire length of town. One is in the middle of town and is small businesses and residential. The other is main traffic and the road you take if you need to pass through fairly quickly. Well, in 10 years I have only written one jaywalking ticket. Just strutted out into traffic without even looking. Car 4 up from me locked them up to avoid hitting her. Chick that jaywalked flipped her the bird. She got the ticket. Plus we have a disorderly conduct ticket that loosely applies to flipping the bird. She got that one too. No traffic control either, by the way. Lights or stop signs. Don't scare a pigeon in Boston. $7 fine.